At 17, I felt a sense of uneasiness. I had completed high school, pursued a one-year diploma in IT back in Ghana, and yet I knew there was more beyond my hometown, beyond everything familiar. I wanted to experience a broader reality, to understand life from a new perspective. So, I made a bold decision to leave Ghana and explore the world. My first stop was India. I was 18, stepping into adulthood and stepping into a culture that was vastly different from my own. Growing up in Ghana, I had been raised in a Christian environment, with faith in Christ as a cornerstone of my life. But in India, I found myself in a land filled with thousands of gods, each with its own story. There, devotion was expressed in ways I had never seen before, from temples that seemed alive with history to people's daily rituals. I realized that belief and spirituality were not a single path. They were countless roads leading in every direction. As I traveled further, I encountered a world that operated on its own terms. From India, I moved to Nepal, then China, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, and Thailand. Each place held a unique lens through which life was understood, and each interaction introduced me to new customs, new beliefs, new ways of interpreting what I had once thought was universal. This was symbolic interactionism at work, a concept I would have come to understand as the theory that our world isn't simply given to us. It's created by the meanings we attach to symbols, words, and gestures. This wasn't just an abstract idea. It was real, lived experience. A prayer flag fluttering in Nepal carried its own sacred significance. In Japan, a bow could convey respect, gratitude, or humility, depending on the situation. In each place, I felt myself becoming both a learner and a translator, reading the symbols and stories that gave each society its distinct character. And then there was China. China took its cultural shift to another level. It was a society that felt like it operated with its own set of rules entirely. In China, I was exposed to beliefs, foods, and customs that were unlike anything I'd ever known. As a boy raised in Ghana, I was used to a certain understanding of food, what was considered edible, what was considered taboo. But in China, I was faced with a culture where the definition of food was far broader. The first time I saw a street vendor selling frog skewers, I couldn't believe my eyes. Frogs? Then it was scorpions, snakes, and even fried insects. For someone like me, coming from Ghana, there wasn't just unusual foods. They were shocking. Back home, we had our own traditions, and food had its own place, its own meaning. In Ghana, eating certain animals were unthinkable, but here in China, they were delicious. The smell of food markets was intense, the array of unfamiliar dishes endless. I was constantly confronted with things I couldn't easily categorize. It was here I felt the true weight of symbolic interactionism. In China, what seemed strange or even revolting to me was, to them, a matter of tradition, a part of life as natural as any meal I'd grown up with. Their relationship with food was deeply cultural, steeped with history and shaped by necessity. It reminded me that symbols, even something as fundamental as food, only hold meaning within a certain cultural context. To them, these food weren't odd. They were a celebration of variety, a symbol of resilience, even survival. This was their normal. Returning to Ghana after time in Asia, I saw my own culture with my new eyes, but I wasn't done exploring. This time, I set out across Africa: Togo, Nigeria, Benin, Senegal, Kenya, South Africa. Each country revealed a fresh layer of what I had come to realize was a vast tapestry of human experience. In Kenya, I marveled at the Maasai people's vibrant beaded jewelry. The Maasai people, each bead color, carried a distinct meaning. Red symbolized strength, white stood for purity, green represented the land. These weren't just adornments, they were visual statements coded of identity, of pride, passed down through generations. In South Africa, I encountered a blend of languages, colors, and architectural styles that seemed to encapsulate a story of resilience and unity. The art, music, and even the ways people dressed all felt connected to a history that was both painful and inspiring. It was a reminder that culture, art, and symbols are woven together in shared experience of who we are, where we come from, and what we've become. Comparison across beliefs and practice. In each place I traveled, I noticed differences in how people approached family, spirituality, community, even marriage. For example, in many parts of the Middle East, it's common and socially accepted for a man to have multiple wives. This is not only permitted by their religion, but respected as a cultural practice. In much of Europe, however, laws and social norms view marriage as a bond between only two people. In a monogamous society, the idea of multiple spouses can seem uncomfortable, even immoral. While in polygamous societies, it's a natural and valued practice. How we respond to these differences reveals the power of symbolic interactionism. Our reactions are shaped by the meaning we've absorbed from our surroundings, not by any universal truth. These symbols and interpretations shape our worldview, and by confronting these differences, I began to understand that there is no single right way to view society, only a vast mosaic of experience and beliefs. As I continued on to Europe, I encountered yet another layer of human experience. In Europe, centuries-old cathedrals towered over modern cities, symbols of religious heritage that has shaped the continent's identity. The architecture, the art, the cultural emphasis on individualism, all of it reflected values that have been ingrained over centuries. Europe's symbols speak of faith, history, and a sense of identity tied to both the individual and the collective. In every place I visited, I carried my own interpretations and beliefs. Each time, I had to adjust, to let go of old meanings and adapt new ones. Symbolic interactionism has taught me that the world isn't simply a given reality. It's an ongoing conversation, an involving set of meanings that each of us contributes to. Consider how we respond to something like marriage, faith, or even food. For someone raised in Ghana, the idea of eating a frog or scorpion might seem appalling, while someone raised in China might find it delicious. For someone raised in a monogamous society, the idea of multiple spouses might feel foreign, while for others, it's a celebrated cultural norm. None of these reactions are right or wrong. They are simply reflections of the symbols and meanings we've learned within our own societies. This journey has taught me that life is a vast spectrum of beliefs, a network of symbols that each of us interprets in our own way. It's been filled with moments of wonder, confusion, and growth. Across every culture, every country, I found a common thread, a desire for understanding, for connection, for purpose. Though our symbols may look different, beneath them lies the same quest for meaning. As I continue to explore, I invite you to ask yourself, what symbols define your reality? What beliefs shape your world? And how might those beliefs shift if you look through another lens?